Listen carefully, because what I'm about to say is not comfortable, and it's not something you'll hear in feel-good videos. If you've ever had an empath in your life, someone who really saw you, understood you, felt you, and one day they just disappeared. No fight, no drama, no explanation. This is why. They didn't leave in a moment. They left in fragments, in quiet, invisible pieces you never noticed. An empath doesn't wake up one day and decide to walk away. That's not how they're built. They are wired to stay, to understand, to look deeper when things feel off. So when something breaks between you, they don't run. They lean in. They try to feel you more. They try to understand what changed. They try to fix what you won't even acknowledge is broken. And this is where it begins. Not with a fight, not with a dramatic ending, but with a subtle, painful shift. They start feeling unseen, not because you told them they don't matter, but because you stopped showing them that they do. You stopped noticing the small things they do for you, the way they adjust themselves just to keep the peace, the way they read your moods without you saying a word, the way they carry emotional weight that was never theirs to carry. And at first, they excuse it. They tell themselves you're tired. They tell themselves you're stressed. They tell themselves love means patience. So they give you more understanding, more presence, more of themselves, even when it costs them, and you don't see the cost. You don't see how heavy it becomes for them to always be the one who understands, to always be the one who forgives first, to always be the one who feels deeper, loves harder, and stays longer. You just get used to it. You get comfortable with their emotional labor. You start expecting it without realizing it. You begin to see their empathy as something normal, something guaranteed, and that's where the damage deepens, because what is given without recognition slowly turns into something taken for granted. And an empath can feel that shift. They feel it in the silence, after they open up, and you don't respond. They feel it when they share something vulnerable, and you brush past it. They feel it when their emotional needs are met with indifference. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's constant. And constancy is what breaks them. They begin to question themselves. Am I asking for too much? Am I too sensitive? Why do I feel alone even when I'm not alone? And instead of blaming you, they turn inward. They shrink their needs. They silence their voice. They convince themselves that if they just love you better, everything will change. So they try harder. They show up even more. They listen even deeper. They support you even when they're empty. And this is the part most people never see. The exhaustion, not physical, emotional, the kind that builds slowly, the kind that doesn't explode. It erodes, day by day, interaction by interaction, moment by moment, until one day, something inside them goes quiet. They stop expecting you to understand. They stop hoping you'll notice. They stop believing things will change. And when an empath loses hope, that's when the leaving truly begins. Not physically, but emotionally. They start pulling back in ways you won't immediately detect. They respond, but with less depth. They listen, but with less energy. They care, but with less attachment, because they're protecting what's left of themselves. And here's the truth that hits hardest. They didn't want it to come to this. They fought for you in ways you will never fully understand. They stayed in moments where others would have walked away without hesitation. They gave chances long after the situation deserved it. But love for them is not just about giving. It's about connection. And when that connection starts to feel one-sided, when their inner world feels unseen, unheard, and unvalued, something shifts. They realize they are disappearing while trying to keep you. And that realization is terrifying, because empaths don't just lose relationships, they lose themselves inside them. So they pause. For the first time, they step back and look at the truth they've been avoiding. They see the imbalance. They see the emotional neglect. They see how much of themselves they've sacrificed just to keep something alive that isn't feeding them back. And it hurts, not just because of you, but because they allowed it. But that pain doesn't destroy them. It wakes them up. And once an empath becomes aware of how unseen they've been, they can't go back to pretending. They can't unfeel it. They can't unknow it. So they start choosing themselves. Quietly, without announcement, without confrontation. They stop overgiving. They stop over-explaining. They stop chasing a connection that no longer feels real. And from the outside, it looks sudden. It looks like they changed overnight. It looks like they became distant for no reason. But the truth is, they've been leaving for a long time. You just didn't notice. The same way you didn't notice them slowly fading while standing right in front of you. When an empath disappears, it feels sudden to you. But to them, it's been a long goodbye. They didn't wake up one morning and decide you no longer matter. They didn't flip a switch and turn off their emotions. That's not how they work. An empath doesn't detach quickly. They detach slowly, painfully, deliberately. Long before they leave your life, they begin leaving in their heart. It starts in the quiet moments, when they sit next to you, but feel completely alone, when they share something meaningful and feel it fall into emptiness, when they look at you and realize you're no longer really seeing them. That's where the grieving begins, not after the relationship ends, but while it's still alive. They start mourning what you used to be. They start mourning what they hoped you could become. They start mourning the connection they kept trying to revive, and you don't even know it's happening. Because they don't make it loud, they still show up, they still smile. They still ask how your day was, but inside, something is breaking. Not all at once, piece by piece. Every ignored feeling becomes a crack. Every dismissed emotion becomes distance. Every moment of being unseen becomes silence inside them. And over time, those cracks don't heal. They widen until the version of you they once loved no longer exists in their reality. And that's when the shift happens. They stop fighting. Not because they don't care, but because they've cared too much for too long without being met halfway. They stop explaining how they feel, because they've explained it 100 times before. They stop trying to fix things, because they realize they were the only one trying. And this is the part that confuses people the most. They don't explode. They don't create chaos. They don't demand closure. They become calm, too calm, because the emotional storm already happened inside them, and you weren't there to witness it. They cried when you weren't looking. They questioned everything in silence. They replayed conversations in their mind, searching for meaning that wasn't there. They gave you chances you didn't even know existed. And slowly, they started letting go. Not of you immediately, but of the attachment they once had. They begin to detach emotionally while still physically present. They answer your messages, but without the same warmth. They listen to your problems, but without losing themselves in them. They care, but with boundaries you never saw before. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. You'll think everything is fine. You'll think they're just having a phase. You'll think they'll always be there, like they always have been. But something fundamental has changed. They are no longer holding on to you the same way. They are preparing themselves for your absence, even while you're still in their life. And here's the truth most people aren't ready to hear. By the time an empath leaves, they've already felt the breakup dozens of times inside their own mind. They've imagined life without you. They've processed the pain of losing you. They've accepted the reality that staying is costing them too much. So when they finally walk away, it doesn't feel like a beginning to them. It feels like an ending they've already lived through. That's why they don't come back. Not because they're cold, not because they never cared, but because they already gave you every version of themselves that was willing to stay. They already tried every way they knew how to make it work. And once they detach at that level, there is nothing left pulling them back. No unfinished emotion, no lingering hope, no illusion left to hold on to. Just clarity. Clear, painful, undeniable clarity. They see the relationship for what it was, not what they wanted it to be. They see how much they gave and how little they received in return. They see how long they stayed, hoping things would change. And once an empath sees the truth without emotional filters, they don't go back to confusion. They don't go back to chasing. They don't go back to abandoning themselves. They choose peace, even if that peace comes with loss, even if that peace means walking away from someone they once loved deeply. And the most shocking part, when they leave, they don't look back. Not because they forgot you, but because remembering you no longer controls them. You become a chapter they've already closed, a lesson they've already learned, a feeling they've already released. So when you finally notice their absence, when you reach out and feel the distance, When you realize they're not responding the same way anymore, it feels abrupt, it feels confusing, it feels like they changed overnight, but they didn't. They just stopped pretending everything was okay. They just stopped holding on to something that was already gone. They just stopped choosing you the moment they finally chose themselves.